There are moments when life gets quiet in a way that feels heavier than silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind where you sit with your thoughts a little longer than you planned. And you wonder how your heart learned to carry so much without anyone noticing. Some of you listening right now know that feeling. You wake up, go through your day, speak kindly to others, but inside, there's a question you don't always say out loud. You wonder if the waiting has meaning. You wonder if love still remembers your name. I want to speak to you as someone who has waited too, as someone who has prayed with tired hands and an honest heart. Not to predict anything for you, but to sit with you in this moment and remind you of what faith really looks like when life feels unfinished. There is a verse in Scripture that says hope deferred can make the heart sick. That line doesn't shame the heart for hurting. It simply names the truth. Waiting can ache, and God is not offended by that ache. Somewhere along the way, many believers were taught that faith means pretending we are not tired, pretending we are not lonely, pretending we are always strong. But the Bible does not hide human weakness. It holds it gently and says God is still present here. You may be in a season where love feels distant, not absent, just far enough that you can't touch it. And I want you to know something important. Distance does not mean neglect. Silence does not mean abandonment. There is a difference between God withholding and God preparing. And most of the time, we only understand that difference looking backward. I've learned that God often works in ways that protect us from what we are not yet ready to carry. Even when our hearts insist we are ready. Even when our loneliness makes convincing arguments. In the book of Psalms, David speaks often about waiting. Not waiting passively, but waiting with expectation and trust. He didn't say the waiting was easy. He said it was necessary. Some of you have been waiting for love that feels safe. Love that doesn't require you to shrink. Love that doesn't ask you to bleed just to be chosen. And if you've ever wondered why past connections didn't last, why moments that felt promising fell apart, it may not be because you weren't enough. It may be because God refused to let you settle for something that would cost you your peace. That doesn't mean the people you met were bad. It simply means they were not meant to shape your future. And God cares deeply about who is allowed to shape you. There is a gentle truth in Scripture that says God orders the steps of those who trust Him. Not just the big steps, the quiet ones too, the unseen ones, the ones taken when no one is watching. That includes the steps of your heart, the timing of connection, the slow unfolding of relationships that require maturity, patience, and depth. Some of you are becoming someone new in this season. Not louder, not more impressive, but more honest, more grounded, more aware of what you will no longer accept. That growth matters more than you realize, because love that lasts is not built on urgency. It is built on wisdom. It's just people often use the word patience, not someone upsetting then they become involved. Not because life is perfect, but because their joy is no longer fragile. The Bible speaks of love as patient and kind, not anxious, not demanding, not rushed. That description alone should tell us something. Real love does not need to chase. It recognizes, it chooses, it stays. If your heart has been healing, if you've been learning how to be alone without feeling empty, if you've been discovering joy that doesn't depend on another person's presence, that is not wasted time. That is preparation. I want to say this carefully, not as a promise, but as a perspective rooted in faith. God often allows connection to grow quietly, before it becomes visible. Not because he enjoys suspense, but because fragile things need covering before they are revealed. Jesus himself grew in wisdom and stature quietly for years. Most of his life was unseen, and yet every moment mattered. Your story does not need to be rushed to be meaningful. Some of you smile politely when people ask about your love life. You change the subject, you laugh it off, but later, when you are alone, you sit with questions that feel heavier. I want you to know, God is not annoyed by those questions. He is present in them. There is a verse that says God is close to the brokenhearted, not just those broken by loss, but those broken by longing, those broken by waiting. You are not weak because you desire love. You were created for connection. That desire is not a flaw. It is part of how God designed the human heart. But desire must be guided by wisdom, or it will lead us into places our souls cannot rest. Some of you are learning how to trust again, after disappointment, after silence, after prayers that seemed unanswered. Trust grows slowly, like roots beneath the soil, unseen, but strong enough to hold something beautiful when the time comes. I've learned that God's timing is rarely about speed. It's about alignment. Alignment of character, alignment of values, alignment of readiness. And readiness is not about perfection. It's about humility. It's about knowing who you are without needing someone else to complete you. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you stop begging love to stay and start trusting God to bring what can remain. That confidence does not make you cold. It makes you grounded. Some of you are becoming grounded for the first time. You no longer chase what once excited you. You now value what brings peace. That is growth, even if it feels lonely at times. The Bible reminds us that God sees the heart, not the highlight reel, not the moments we post or perform, the heart. And when God sees a heart that is healing instead of hardening, waiting instead of settling, trusting instead of forcing, that matters deeply. I want to pause here and let this sink in. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are in a season that is shaping you more than you realize. If you've been learning to smile again, even in small ways, that matters. If you've been finding joy in quiet moments, in ordinary days, in simple gratitude, that matters. Jesus once said that those who are faithful with little are entrusted with more. He wasn't just talking about work or resources. He was speaking about the heart. Faithfulness in waiting, faithfulness in healing, faithfulness in learning to love yourself well. These things are not small. Some of you may sense that love, when it comes again, will feel different. Not dramatic, not chaotic, but steady. That steadiness is not boring, it is safe. And safety allows joy to last. I'm not here to tell you what will happen, or when, or how. I'm here to remind you who God is, and who you are becoming. God is not rushed, and He is not careless with your heart. The same God who knows when a sparrow falls, knows the weight of your longing. That doesn't mean everything unfolds on our schedule, but it does mean nothing is overlooked. There is a peace that comes when you stop measuring time by absence and start measuring it by growth. Look at who you are now compared to who you were. Look at the strength you carry quietly, the boundaries you hold with grace, the compassion you offer without losing yourself. That person is not accidental. Some of you have learned to pray differently, not asking God to hurry, but asking Him to guide. That is maturity. And maturity attracts a different kind of love. Love that respects your story. Love that listens. Love that does not need to prove itself through intensity. See, the Bible speaks of God doing exceedingly more than we ask or imagine. Not in quantity, but in depth. Sometimes what we imagine is limited by what we've known. God is not limited by that. As we come closer to the end of this reflection, I want you to take a breath, right where you are. See, release the pressure to figure everything out. Release the fear that time is running out. Release the belief that your worth is measured by relationship status. Your worth was established long before anyone noticed you. You are held. You are seen. You are growing. If this message has spoken gently to you, if it has reminded you to breathe and trust a little deeper, you're welcome to like this message or share a kind word in the comments for someone else who may be waiting quietly. And if you feel led to stay connected, you can subscribe to the Angels Decode channel, not for answers, but for encouragement along the journey. Let us end this moment with gratitude, not for what we are waiting for, but for who God is shaping us to be. Trust does not mean knowing the outcome. It means knowing the one who walks with you through the waiting. And that is enough for today. And before you close this moment, I want to stay with you a little longer, not to add noise, but to honor the quiet work God does when we slow down enough to notice. There is a kind of peace that doesn't come from answers. It comes from acceptance, from realizing you don't need to chase clarity to be faithful. Many people confuse faith with certainty. But Scripture shows us again and again that faith is often practiced in uncertainty. Abraham walked without a map. Ruth followed without guarantees. Mary said yes without knowing how the story would unfold. None of them were praised for knowing the outcome. They were honored for trusting God with the unknown. If your life feels unresolved right now, if parts of your heart still feel unfinished, you are in good company. God has always worked through people who were willing to keep walking, even when the road felt incomplete. Some of you are learning how to rest without giving up, how to hope without demanding, how to love life even while something important is still forming. That balance is not easy, but it is holy. There is a quiet dignity in waiting well. Not waiting bitter, not waiting numb, but waiting open. Open does not mean unguarded. It means receptive. It means you haven't closed your heart just because it was once disappointed. That takes courage. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts, not to lock them away, but to protect what is precious. And your heart is precious. Some of you had to rebuild that truth after years of giving too much to the wrong places, after loving without being met, after hoping without being held. Rebuilding takes time, and God is patient with the process. I've learned that God often uses seasons of singleness, solitude, or silence, not to punish, but to restore clarity. Clarity about who you are, clarity about what you value, clarity about what love must include for you to remain whole. That clarity becomes a filter. It gently removes what doesn't belong. So when something real approaches, you are able to recognize it without fear. Fear often comes from confusion. Peace comes from alignment. Some of you used to confuse intensity with connection, attention with affection, chemistry with commitment. And now you're wiser, not cynical, wiser. Wisdom doesn't close the door to love. It changes the way you open it. The book of Proverbs reminds us that wisdom is more valuable than riches because it protects what wealth alone cannot. That includes the soul. If your soul feels steadier these days, even if your circumstances haven't changed, that is evidence of God's presence. God often changes us before He changes our situation, because transformation lasts longer than rescue. Rescue can feel dramatic, but transformation is what sustains. Some of you don't need to be rescued. You need to be strengthened, and strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like calm. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like saying no without guilt. Jesus often withdrew to quiet places, not because He was weak, but because He understood the power of stillness. If the Son of God needed quiet to remain aligned, so do we. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to trust God without performing certainty for others. Your journey does not need to make sense to everyone. It only needs to remain honest before God. There is a verse that reminds us that God finishes what He begins. Not halfway, not carelessly, fully. That includes the work He is doing in you right now. Even the parts that feel slow, even the parts that feel invisible. In time, you may look back and realize the waiting protected you, the silence refined you, the delay aligned you. Not everything that feels late is wrong. Sometimes it arrives right when you are ready to hold it without fear. Until then, live well, love deeply, grow patiently, and trust that God is not absent from the quiet chapters. He is often writing the most important lines there. May you carry peace into the rest of your day, not because everything is settled, but because you are learning to trust the One who walks with you through every season. And for now, that is enough.